this thing on. This is President Barack Obama. I love listening to broccoli. I think he's almost as awesome as me.
The president would come out and he makes some sort of freaking public service announcement to Liberia, which is none of his business. Well, it's not his country. I don't understand what he thinks. Does he think he's the president of the world? Again, irrelevant. So he makes some sort of public service announcement saying, "Oh, it's okay. Don't panic. You know, you can sit next to people on the bus. You're not going to get it," which is seeming pretty dishonest to me, considering these people are getting it by just being in the proximity.
It is solidified. The cement is set. And when he thinks about the world, that's the way he sees it. You can throw anything at him. Right now we're talking about Ebola. Anything. You pull any issue, you pull any scenario out of your head, you throw it at that man and his team, and it's going to come back. Politics, uber alles, every single time. That's all they know. I said this on my terrestrial radio show. I guarantee you, when this touchdown, when this first hit the White House, they got around and they talked about optics. They talked about how this is going to look. They talked about how they can head off political fallout. I guarantee you.
You know, who obviously backed the president out there with their pathetic science, which is even weaker than global warming science, and they're like, if we shut down flights out of Liberia or surrounding areas, we're going to make the outbreak worse, which a 4-year-old would be able to figure out doesn't make any sense.
If you think about the track record of what they've been able to convince the American people, I mean, we've been dealing with Alice in Wonderland, Newspeak, Orwellian kind of upside down this for what? How long now? They've been saying things that are just patently ridiculous for so long. You can't blame them for trying again. I mean, they've been saying crazy stuff that doesn't make any common sense to the American people for 6 years. Just crazy stuff. Like for example, we're 18, 19 debt. We got to spend more money. That's ridiculous on its face. And yet they say it straight-faced to the American people. What's to keep them from saying this? You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, it's so ideology.
I guess if you think the way they think, and you think that we really are just a bunch of ignorant, uninformed.
Is there some explanation that I'm missing? I mean, I can't think of anything else. I mean, what would cause you to get out in front of the American people and say something so stupid, so preposterous? I mean, what would be if it wasn't ideology? What else? If it wasn't
well, I mean, okay, with the exception of everyone, but like kind of the top brass, I can kind of get your marching orders. You realize that your job is to back up the president, to back up the administration, and even if you know it's not true. For example,
is that your job if you're at the CDC?
No, well, I mean, yeah, it is your job. I look at everybody as kind of like a White House spokesperson. They back the president.
Well, just stop to think about how scary that is on its face. I mean, we just Blu-ray past that.
Without a doubt, I think that the head of the CDC takes his marching orders directly from the president. Absolutely. And the president's ideology, which all the people around him, all the positions of bureaucracy that surround him, all share the same ideology.
Well, there's no doubt, but the American people and our listeners should stop and really think about how dangerous that is.
Have you heard any of the press conferences? This is the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, which is like the place. For the last few years, main goal has been the diet of the American people. That's kind of what they've been focusing on. Now, I don't think they're incompetent. I think it's ideology with them. I think that they're doing what the president's telling them to do. And, I don't feel like I'm doing what the leftists did when Bush was in office, which was blame every ridiculous thing on him, conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, made him seem like the devil. I really do believe that this is all motivated movement on the part of the president. You said you weren't there yet, but I don't see how there's all the other options.
Well, the other option, again, the prevailing option right now is everybody's explaining it as total and endemic incompetence.
Okay, like that's the excuse they use for everything. I mean, you figure after the third or fourth time where the president's like, I learned about it on the news. You figure that but they always opt for ignorance. They always opt for I didn't know. I mean, really? I think that's just an excuse. Well,
there's a difference between ignorance and incompetence. I mean, I said that I think what happens is obviously when an administration sweeps power, they bring a team in, and this how you advance in this team is you're loyal to the political left, the progressive policies. It's not competence. How did the head of the CDC get his job? Well, it's not because he's this very competent disease control orchestrator. It's because he's a sycophant. It's because he's a drone. And, of course, that can be said of every department in the federal government right now. That's what's so scary. That's very Soviet thinking.
We need more Snowdens, even though I know the left is really good at turning them into bad guys. What we need is Snowdens coming out from every
Absolutely, we do.
We need somebody willing to just put their life and their liberty and all that stuff on the line for the truth. And even though the left will pounce on them, which is so ironic, because throughout history, all the whistleblowers that were against conservative or Republican are heroes. And then, but this administration is every single thing that they hate. But he holds the handful of right values when it comes to abortion, when it comes to socialism. He holds those views that are paramount to the left. He has the right kind of thinking on those. So they just let everything else slide. Worse than that, they're willing to sweep everything under the rug and cover every single thing wrong he does up. And this is another one of the things that if you have a friend, you sat down with your friend and your friend is a liberal, and then you guys disagree on social issues or whatnot, if your friend is willing to defend the decisions that are being made right now by this administration, then I would say that they're a morally corrupt and a dishonest person and not worthy of your friendship. And I would go that far.
The stuff of late, say the last year especially, at this point, I think if you still support the administration, you have a character problem. There's a fundamental character problem within you, and that's just something that you got to deal with, I think,
and
internally.
Beck's lately, going back, I listen to him when I can. Lately, he's really pushing for this unity thing. And the funny thing is, in my heart, or in the emotional side of me, yeah, of course she doesn't want that. I mean, you can find common ground with almost everybody. But there are issues, as of late, like you said, in the last year, that would end a friendship for me. And I'd be better for it, because these issues reveal real deep character flaws that are just not political issues.
I think that's a great conversation in and of itself that you stumbled on, because if you want to be a great person and you want to be a good person, you have to surround yourself with people of great character, not like-mindedness. That's the difference. And I'd love to explore that. A person of good character doesn't have to agree with you on every single issue. That's what's wrong with this country right now. That you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But the things we're talking about right now, these are character issues. These aren't politics. This isn't an allocation of fun difference of opinions. What money should go here? What money should go there? These are fundamental character, just evil things that we're seeing.
I agree.
We need to talk about the fact that the sermons were subpoenaed. This show seems like Notre Dame in respect. I remember on this same show I reported that the CDC got caught. Nobody reported. So I couldn't see this anywhere. They got caught about 6 months ago sending all these infectious diseases in like coolers and saran wrap and all kinds of things that broke protocol. And I said at the time, this is because bureaucracy is running this organization. It's their professionalism. It's jump ahead 6 months, and now the CDC, there's a hot police fight on their face for incompetence. And I can think of a dozen things like that we've talked about here. Sort of like the gut instinct that we have about what's coming around the bend. And we've talked about this religious persecution ad nauseum. And now they literally subpoenaed sermons. First when I read that, I didn't believe it. I did all the research. I know all the details of the story. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened.
It's beyond incredible. When I first heard that, I was pretty shocked. And now as it's the revelations are coming out, the more we're learning about the story, the more shocking it is. I mean, we're right. If you could do that without fearing the consequences of the populace caring enough to say, whoa. Just because what I'm saying is not popular doesn't mean you have a right to criminalize it or make it a legal issue. If you can't, kind of more or less, the flags were really being raised with the gay marriage issue and the Christian conservatives who were unwilling to, take pictures at a wedding or make a cake at a wedding, or whatever the issue was. When the legal rulings came down saying your morals and what your Bible tells you is illegal, that's when I knew it was way sooner than I thought it was.
If you don't want to see it, I suppose you can blind your eyes to it, but it's right there. I mean, everything, and of course, you and I, maybe even a year ago, we said this is the whole point the whole time. This is the point. The point was to get militant with an ideology that they didn't like, and of course, we see it. We see it right here.
And it's not, they're not apologetic for it. This is going to continue. It's going to get worse. And eventually, in the very near future, it's going to be your faith is going to be criminalized because they're going to consider your faith hate speech.
And they'll succeed because, for whatever reason, I have no idea why, Christians are not willing to get in the fray. I mean, there are so many people every Sunday in this country that go to a brick-and-mortar church, I mean, they share all kinds of political ideas. But if the Christians don't see the line in the sand here, they're willfully blind and they're delusional at this point, because it's as clear as it can possibly be. And by the way, this isn't even about gay marriage. This is about transsexual bathrooms. And the opposition to it was just a legal one. You know, the more I look into this, the first knee-jerk reaction from the left is there's tax exemption, tax exemption. These guys weren't even preaching policy. They weren't even preaching you can lose your tax exemption theoretically, unless you're a black church, of course, if you advocate for candidates. Now, if you're a black church and you advocate for Obama, you're good. But if you're some sort of white metropolitan church and you advocate for some Republican, but not policy, you can garner signatures. That's perfectly legal. There's no constitutional or legal problem. She's an openly gay woman. Her first act is to criminalize churches. Can you be any more partisan and ridiculous? How many Christians own offices? They don't go out and witch hunt gays or people they don't agree with. But the first thing this gay mayor does is subpoena sermons.
See, they're always guilty of doing what they say we do. We're the boogeyman. They actually do it. But by projecting that negative behavior on us, we get the blame, and they reap all the rewards of this behavior.
The fascinating thing is that the same people who are defending excessive surveillance now complained 6 and 7 years ago when those very same surveillance authorities were exercised by a different president.